This is She Goes Beyond, and I'm your host, Victoria Fregis. Here we're dedicated to changing the status quo and building a powerful community of women who can do it all. Who says you only have to be one thing? So grab your rod or your bow and tune in to the stories of women who love the same things that you do. You never know, you might just meet your next best friend. Madi Woodward is a woman of grit, grace, and deep intention, and this conversation is full of insight, a little laughter, and the kind of honest reflection that can change you. We dive into the why behind her passion for hunting and how that relationship has evolved over time. What began as a pursuit of adventure with her dad and her brother has become a deeply personal journey. Madi has not only discovered more of the world around her, but also uncovered parts of herself she hadn't yet met. It's about finding yourself within yourself and how the outdoors can be a mirror, a teacher, and a place of healing. And maybe a little therapy can help too. From stepping into the world of ammunition to her work with the legendary brand Nosler, Madi gives us a behind-the-scenes look at turning her passion for the outdoors into a profession and how she's learned to draw that much-needed line between work and play. We explore what it means to heal on your own terms and to slow down. Madi opens up about the inner work she's done, the growth that comes with it, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing who you are at your core. Madi also goes into details about her and her husband Clark's brand new adventure, a long-range hunting course created and led by them. Finally, yes, we even talk about coffee cups. If you're still sipping from your Yeti like it's a personality trait, Madi might just convince you to trade it in for a ceramic mug and reclaim your mornings with more intention and less noise. This episode is filled with depth, rifle talk, and a beautiful reminder that sometimes the wildest places help us come home to ourselves. Let's get into it. All right. Well, welcome, Madi, to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thanks for being here. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good.
Yeah, it was a good week. Good weekend. Nice long weekend. Headed into
Yeah.
another work week.
Here we go.
Here we go. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start talking about where you grew up, how you grew up, how you got into this whole hunting and shooting thing. Let's start there.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I've hunted since, oh gosh, I don't even know, as young as I can remember. So I grew up hunting and just spent a lot of time outdoors. My dad was a hunter and he always just took my brother and me with him. And so that's kind of how I grew up. I didn't really know any different. I thought that everybody went hunting, right? Like that's just what I grew up knowing. Grew up playing sports, showing horses, grew up in a really good family in Northwest Oregon. And that's kind of like what's led me here. But outside of hunting, I played basketball in college. I got my master's degree. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. So just all around super active growing up. You were in the outdoors, your parents did it, and you also played sports, which I feel like all kind of like intertwines. Like,
It
I don't
does.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the work ethic and just like the go-getter attitude that sports require kind of has helped me along through life and really in hunting and everything I do today.
Yeah. Are you still in Oregon?
I am in Central Oregon now.
Okay. Love it. It's beautiful out there. I've been there one
Oh,
time.
I love it over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, cool. So you grew up hunting, and how did that, like, once you went to college, did you keep that hunting? Like, were you going home? Where did you go to college?
I went to college in Salem, Oregon at
Okay.
Willamette University. And I did. So I played basketball there, but then in the off season or on the weekends, I would go home and I would go hunting. Like hunting never really stopped. Like I mentioned, I didn't know any different growing up. And it wasn't until middle school and high school where my brother and I were missing like sports practice or school to go hunting that I was like, oh, not everybody does this. Okay. So that was pretty special. But yeah, it was just something that I continued on through college and now into my adult life. But my why behind it has kind of changed. I would say growing up, I always really admired my dad, and it was a way to just spend time with him. in the woods. And so it wasn't a question of like whether I was going to go hunting with him or not. It was just something we did. And we have so many photos of like the three of us growing up in the woods in our full camo and like little yellow fake binos and yeah. And I mentioned the three of us because my mom, she was always very supportive of hunting, but she didn't hunt herself until just the last couple of years, and we can get into that. But yeah, she would like get up early, pack our lunches, make sure we had warm clothes, and was like always cooking wild game, super stoked when we got something. But she played more of a support role in that rather than going hunting with us. And now that I'm married, I feel like she probably just liked her alone time. um, but yeah, so my why kind of changed. Like growing up, it was to spend time with my dad and my brother. And then as I got older and I started realizing that not everyone did that, and then it became my choice to hunt, right? Like in high school, that was the cool thing to do. Like not every girl hunted. So it was like the cool thing. And then as I became into an adult and it really was like my decision to spend my own time and money doing that, it became more of this practice that really shaped me. And I feel like I've really figured out who I am when I'm in like the deepest, darkest hellhole canyon and you're contemplating why do we do this to ourselves, but you really figure out what you're made of. And I feel like that's translated into a lot of aspects of my life outside of hunting. But it really proves to you what you can do and that your body can take you a lot further than your mind thinks is capable. And so it's shifted into this thing that like it's just part of who I am. But then there's a whole other aspect of providing quality meat for my family, especially this day and age. It seems like there's toxins everywhere. All of our food is contaminated, and there's just nothing more rewarding than being able to process meat and know every step of the way, like who handled it, what was done to it, and be able to put that on your table. I feel like going to the freezer in our garage and grabbing a package of burger for dinner, there's nothing better than that.
I second that. Absolutely. If I have to buy meat in the store, I can't tell you the last time I had to, but if I had to, I think we'd just go without. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
I could do it. You don't even know, you just don't know. And what's worse is, we had a chicken coop and we've considered like doing meat birds because chicken's actually even worse, I feel like, in the
Or,
store.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you typically hunt out there? What are you hunting like on a typical year?
Typical year, elk, deer, spring bear, fall bear, turkeys. That's pretty much it for a typical year. And then over the last few years in my role at Nosler, I was very fortunate to be able to travel pretty much the world and hunt and go to some really neat places. But yeah, we'll put in for, bighorn, mountain goat, and some out of state tags, but pretty much it's deer, elk, bear,
Yeah.
turkey. Yeah, those are pretty much the ones that we do every year. And then sometimes I archery hunt, sometimes a rifle hunt. Kind of just depends on what that year looks like. My husband Clark and I try not to archery hunt this same season together just because it's like it's hard to focus on getting someone an animal when you have multiple tags. And he swears that we always spend the whole season hunting for me. But so we try to alternate. But yeah, really just use archery and rifle as a way to increase my opportunity.
Sure, sure, sure. And how difficult, that was a lot of seasons that you just mentioned in the Midwest, like Minnesota, Wisconsin. Some of those things are a lottery, some of those things are, dependent on a point system. Is that how it is for you out there, or is it really easy to get those tags?
We are on a point system. So, oh, that's one I forgot to mention, antelope. We hunt antelope too, but we are on a point system. And so it just depends on, how many points you have and what unit you're waiting to draw. That said, you could pretty much draw every year. There's also over the counter elk and deer hunts you can do. So regardless of whether you draw for anyone in Oregon, there's opportunities to hunt every single year. And then I feel very fortunate. My husband's family has quite a bit of land, and so we do get some landowner tags. And that's another opportunity. If we don't draw a tag or hunt over the counter, then sometimes we can get an LOP tag.
Yeah, love that. When you say that you're choosing bow versus rifle and you're kind of making that decision based on who's hunting and probably what you're hunting for, is take us into that conversation. Like, how does that look when you guys are making that decision? Do you love shooting your bow? I know you're a big gun girl, so I'm curious what that looks like.
Yeah, I do love bow hunting. I particularly love archery elk hunting just because I think the whole experience with calling in a bull and just being up close and personal is really exciting. Last fall was actually my first time taking an elk with a rifle, and that was incredible too. But I grew up rifle hunting, and it wasn't until my years in college that I picked up a bow. And so I've killed two bulls with a bow, one with a rifle, and it kind of just depends on how I'm feeling. Usually Clark has like he's pretty serious about what he wants to do and he plans it out well in advance. But unless I had some like crazy amount of points and knew I was going to draw a unit, I usually will let him pick whether he wants to rifle or archery hunt, and then I'll kind of look at my points and we'll just have a conversation about it and do what looks best for our point system. And then also one thing too, when we're like going so many different directions, is we have to look at okay, if we were to draw every single tag we put into, because there is that chance, then would we be able to hunt all of those units? So we also look at timing and how far spaced out they are. We also have, we run a ranch. So we have cattle through about mid-November. And so that's something we have to take into consideration. We also have four horses, four cattle dogs. And so sometimes someone has to stay back and hold down the fort. So a lot of times we'll hunt together. It kind of depends. Sometimes someone's hanging back and taking care of the place and the animals. But yeah, it's always a conversation.
Yeah. Perfect. When you say that with Nosler, you got to travel the world, what does that look like for women who want to try to hunt a different state? What does it look like that process of getting a tag or, did you come across like more of the point system with every other state or how did you feel about that process?
I'm not too familiar with draws in other states,
Okay.
only because I've only put in a few years myself, and some states are lottery, like you mentioned earlier. Some states are lottery, some states are point system. Hunt and Fool is a company that does a really good job of helping you put in for out of state tags. So they're one that I would probably consult because they know the system really well and
Yeah.
they can help you put in for like every state if you wanted to. But most of the stuff I was doing with Nosler were guided hunts. So I went down to Texas to hunt aoudad, to hunt whitetail, which those are like ranch tags, and they would just purchase them. We hunted ibex in Spain, and what else did I do? Hunted Hawaii and both Maui and Molokai for axis deer. And so a lot of the hunts with them weren't necessarily draws. They were tags that they could purchase just over the counter or from a landowner or a guide service rather than putting in.
Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
This podcast is sponsored by Taylor & Co. Taylor & Co. is a mother-daughter nurse duo-owned business specializing in handcrafted, all-natural self-care products and services with an emphasis on health, wellness, and holistic healing. Their products are handcrafted in Minnesota with pure, natural, and organic ingredients. They offer wellness services such as yoga classes, Reiki healing, and more. You can find them on Instagram or online at taylorandco.boutique. When you are choosing a rifle, you are once again a rifle girly, and I cannot even imagine what your gun safe looks like. But tell us how you're making that decision based on the animal. So just go through your year on like, like you said, you've got spring bear, fall bear, whitetail, etc. How are you deciding what rifle to use?
So I would say there's a lot of different considerations that go into it. For me, I kind of like to have a one size fits all, unless you're getting like, moose or going to African game. Pretty much here in the United States and especially in the Northwest, you can hunt all big game with, I would say, one cartridge and one rifle. So my go to has been a 28 Nosler. Um, Last fall, I shot my bowl with my husband's 300 Norma improved. You can kind of get as fancy or as generic as you want to go. I would say we've really gone down the rabbit hole. We drink the juice when it comes to like rifles and optics and reloading and all the things. But I would say for most people, you could pick a cartridge like any 7mm, 7 rem mag, 300 Win mag, 300 PRC, 7 PRC is popular now. But I would say whatever you are most confident in shooting, even if it's on the smaller caliber size, like 6.5 PRC, 6.5 Creedmoor, I would say whatever you are most confident shooting is going to be the rifle that you want to take out hunting. So a lot of women in particular are afraid of the recoil of a rifle. So there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate the recoil of a rifle and make it more comfortable to shoot. Now there's a lot of different stock designs. I would say carbon fiber stocks and the way you position yourself behind the rifle, you really want to position yourself straight on. It used to be like you would turn sideways and like shoot the gun, but I would say you want to be really straight on and you want to take that recoil straight back right into your shoulder. And another thing you can do to help mitigate recoil is like a suppressor or a muzzle brake. There's little things that you can tweak, even shooting a lighter bullet. But yeah, I would say whatever you're most confident in, whatever you are most willing to train with throughout the year and shoot throughout the year is what you should take hunting. And obviously, when you get into like foot pounds of energy, there's a lot that we could get into about like bullet size and devastation and terminal performance. There's a lot that goes into it. But overall, I would say whatever you are comfortable shooting. And then personally, I wouldn't go lighter than 6.5 PRC for elk. That's just a personal preference. Again, I think a lot of people, and this is how it was when I was growing up, like I would shoot my dad's 257 Weatherby or his 300 Win Mag for elk and deer, and I was afraid to shoot it. And so we would pull it out a couple weeks before season, and he would sight it in at 200 yards, and then he'd be like, "Okay, Maddie, like shoot it once, make sure you can shoot it." And that's all I would do because I felt like I was going to get beat up by that rifle. And I feel like that's just not the case anymore. Rifles and rifle manufacturers have done a really good job at making rifles and firearms a lot more comfortable to shoot. And they like even my 28 Nosler being a big caliber that has a huge case capacity. And when I say case capacity, I'm talking about the capacity for powder within the brass. It would normally kick hard, but I have it in a Seekins rifle, and the way the stock's built, the way the barrel's bedded, and with a muzzle breaker suppressor, it's a dream to shoot.
Tell us how you became so knowledgeable with all of the pieces of a rifle and understanding this. Like, obviously, that's years and years and years of experience, but when did that start for you, Maddie?
It started about probably about 5.5 years ago. So growing up with firearms, like I knew firearms, right? Like I knew the gist of it, knew how to handle them safely, knew how to shoot them, was a confident shooter. But when I met my husband, I started diving into hand loading because that's what he did and that's what he really loved. And I always compare it to like I love baking. I love to make like cinnamon rolls and muffins and I love to bake. But he likes to bake out in the garage. Like he likes to make his own recipes with ammunition. And that's kind of like how I compare it. Like you can tweak the load, you can tweak the bullet weight. You can do so many different things to get a gun to shoot well. And so he is really passionate about that. And me being interested in hunting and guns in general, I kind of clung to that and absorbed every piece of information I could get from him. So then with that, I also worked at Nosler for the past almost 5 years. And for those that don't know, they are a premium firearms and ammunition manufacturer. So they started back in 1948, actually developing bullets and manufacturing bullets. And then as they progress, now a 77-year-old company are making loaded ammo, firearms, suppressors. So in my career there, I really got the opportunity to dive in deep and learn from them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go into that working for Nosler. Give us some more background, how that, you probably have an update that you want to share, but I start from the beginning.
Yeah. So when I met my husband, I met him on Instagram, which I always am so embarrassed to say, but I feel like that's
Oh,
pretty
no.
normal these days.
Yeah.
Um, but I met him on Instagram and he lived here in Central Oregon, which was about 4 hours away from where I was living at the time and where I grew up. And so we were doing kind of long distance. And then COVID hit. And at my previous job, everybody went remote during COVID. And so I was like, well, this seems like a really good opportunity to move. So I ended up moving in with him and working remote. And I just wasn't loving my job at the time. And so I ended up quitting and I worked on his family's ranch for a few months. And I was like, I'm just going to give it some time and I'm not going to be rushed into a role. I was looking for jobs, but I was like, I was feeling pretty comfortable. And I was like, I'm only going to take a job that I'm genuinely interested in. And at the time, I didn't know what Nosler was. I grew up just going to Weimar and like picking whatever ammo for my gun off the shelf. And at that time, I was actually shooting Hornady in my 7 Red mag, and I had no idea what Nosler was. But Clark, being a reloader, he had always shot Nosler bullets, and he had all their reloading guides. And he was like, "Nosler's in Bend. Why don't you see if they have any jobs open?" I was like, "Okay." And I looked, and they had an accounts receivable position open. And I had my MBA with a focus in marketing, but I had also taken some accounting and finance courses. And this job required like a GED. So I was a little overqualified, but definitely qualified. And so I applied and they hired me. And that was kind of my way of getting my foot in the door. And then about 6 months went by, and the VP of sales and marketing was like, "What are you doing in accounting?" And I was like, "I don't know. This is the only job open." So at that point, I moved into marketing, which is what I'm really passionate about. And I would say, like, I'm not as much passionate about marketing because I think there's a lot of bad marketing out there and a lot of bad products. I'm really passionate in marketing products that I'm passionate about and that I truly believe in. And that's kind of how I felt at Nosler. Like I really believed in their products and their bullets. I knew they worked. Like I've shot them for years. I know they work. And that's something that I could get behind. Like we weren't just selling another Me Too product. It was like actually solving people's problems. And it was, as an ethical hunter, it was something that we could market that was helping hunters get success, but also making hunting more ethical. Like you weren't having to shoot animals multiple times. You weren't having animals run off wounded. Like we were educating people on bullet construction and what was important when looking for a bullet. And I was very passionate about that. So I joined marketing and slowly moved up in marketing to the point where I was the marketing manager the last year and a half, running a full functioning marketing team. We did everything from trade shows, apparel, e-commerce, paid advertising. I had 4 people under me. And yeah, it was incredible. It was a great experience and I think I grew a lot and I grew a lot personally and professionally. They gave me a ton of opportunity and I felt very grateful for that. Recently, some things changed and legally I can't talk about the specifics. I had to sign a mutual settlement, which listeners can read between the lines and kind of take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I'm no longer with Nosler. Very grateful for the experience I had there. I think that I would not be the same person I am today if I hadn't had that career and that experience and ultimately like became a manager to where I had a team and it was the most rewarding thing ever having a team. I'm very independent and like I don't know, like very driven, very independent, a self-starter. And so I thought all along that I would never want to have a team. I'm like, why would I want to manage people and have a team? But I got to build a team of really incredible folks and who brought energy every single day. And it was so rewarding.
Not everyone can say that, Maddie. Like that seems like such a great experience. It does seem like you're very lucky to be a part of that. And regardless of how it ended, you have so much more knowledge now and you can take that and there's a bigger plan for you, right? Like there's something
Yes.
else out there for you that you're going to just spread your wings and kill it.
Yes, I 100% believe that there is a bigger plan for me. And with being so passionate about my career, there were downfalls, right? Like I lived that job inside and outside of work because it was so closely tied to my hobbies and my passion outside of work. That's what I did. And I think that I put my identity in that career. So a lot of people knew me as like the girl that works for Nosler, like she is Nosler. And that was fun while it lasted, but now I'm like, now what? So if there's any advice I can give to anyone, it's like make sure that your identity is separate from your career. Along with that, too, I would say about a year and a half ago, I started going to therapy and I started going to church. I just wasn't happy with myself or really my marriage. And I don't think I was a good wife either. And so I started, I don't even know what it was, but I started to just look inward. I was like, you know what? If I can't change my husband, I'm going to change myself. And I wasn't like the wife I wanted to be. I didn't have work life balance. I felt like I worked my ass off every single day and I came home like exhausted. And it was like every night I would be, okay, gotta get to bed early, gotta rest up for work the next day. And then on weekends, it was like, okay, gotta rest up for work this week. And it was my whole life was work. And it was probably my husband Clark being like, hello, like, how about like a little attention? And so I really started to dig deeper within myself and go to therapy and go to church. And with that, I started to feel like that job, while I loved every second of it, maybe wasn't meant for me. I used to believe that, well, I used to believe in hustle culture, which
Yeah.
I would say I don't anymore. I think I carried a lot of stress and a lot of weight on my shoulders being put in such a powerful role. I think I looked like I carried it well, but I don't know that ultimately I did. I think I did an incredible job there, but I'm very relieved to not have that weight on my shoulders anymore, especially being in a male dominant industry. I don't think that they believe they treat women any different. I think it's just normal. I think that's just inherent. And I had this constant feeling of having to prove myself. Like I was one of the most knowledgeable people there and most experienced in hunting and shooting. And I felt like I was constantly having to prove myself every single day. Like I had to go to work and I had to be this macho person that really had to hold my own and fight for airspace at a company full of men. And then try to come home and be the homemaker, the wife, like the nurturer, and serve my husband. And in going to church and like finding a relationship with God, I felt like that wasn't my calling anymore. I wanted to find an identity in being a wife and I wanted to, really be a softer person, if that makes sense, like be more feminine. And then too, in going to therapy, I was able to look inward and address a lot of things within myself, like okay, my marriage isn't the problem, my husband isn't the problem, I'm the problem. And so there was a lot of things that I had to work through personally. I think that everyone has childhood trauma, and maybe trauma is not the right word. Maybe it's just your environment and finding your needs and whether your needs were met as a kid. I have an awesome family. Like my parents are still married. I'm close with my brother and his family. Talk to my parents on almost a daily basis. Adore them. Like I have the best family, and I still feel like while like nothing traumatic happened to me, I still feel like there's trauma or things that I learned or took on growing up and into my high school and college years that I needed to separate from and really like let go of. And so I feel like that's how therapy helped me. And then just with my career at Nosler over the past year, I felt my calling to be different than being like that macho marketing manager person that I was having to be at work.
Yeah. I don't think you're alone in any of that, Maddie. I feel like I took some of what you just said too and feel very similar. It's kind of not, I don't want to say I'm a nurse, so it's not really a macho field. But like, I also feel like often we're like grinding, right? Like
Mm.
podcasts, I work a full-time job, photographer, all these things. And it's like, you forget how important your relationship that's in your home, how important that is. Like, that's the thing that you should be nurturing, not your job and this and that. And like, while that pays the bills and it's important, I agree. There's so much to be said about separating that from your personal life, which is also kind of funny because someone like me who isn't doing something, I don't want to say that I don't love it because I do love being a nurse manager and I do love my job, but it's not my passion, right? Like,
Hmm.
so from my perspective, it's like, gosh, I wish I could have a job like Nosler where I could
Yeah.
do something. And now that wouldn't be where I'd go because that's not something I'm super like knowledge about at this time. But like, whatever it may be, you think that that's what you want. But I think this is a really good call out that you said that it's not always the grass isn't greener just because you're gonna,
Hmm.
enjoy doing it. Like you still want that separation.
Yes, I think setting healthy boundaries is important. And that's kind of what I did the last year. And my job required me to travel a lot in the first few years I was there. I was always going on hunts, I was always going to an event, a trade show, whatever it might be. And I ended up spending a lot more time at work and frankly with other men in the industry that my husband, like, I'm like, my husband's at home and that's really where I want to be. So within the last year, I did set some healthy boundaries and I started to grow into that. And it became really empowering to say no to things. But I do really feel like the last year and a half led me to this point. And I think that I needed to have that personal and professional growth the last year and a half to sit here right now and be comfortable in the ending and be comfortable in my path moving forward.
Yeah. That's so cool that you can say that. I love that for you, and I'm sure everyone else does too. What are you doing now?
Now I don't know what I'm doing. Right now I've been working for my husband. So I mentioned that we run a cattle ranch. So we lease 12,000 acres from his family and we run cattle on them all summer long. So we actually have cattle coming in next week and then they'll graze all summer on our land until mid-November, depending on weather. And really, the cattle require quite a bit of work. It's fencing. Elk are always running through our fences, tearing them down. It's fencing, making sure they all have water, feed, moving pastures, watching the grass, and it's a lot of work. So last year, my husband he has an excavator and some heavy equipment, and he puts those on fire contracts. So during the summer, when there are forest fires, he'll get called to go work those contracts. So he was gone a lot. And so it actually required me to, work my whole normal schedule during the week. And then on weekends, I would be up fixing fence, moving cows, putting out mineral from literally daylight to sundown. And it's a lot of work. So I'm excited to be able to do that more relaxed. But I really enjoy riding my horses. So I'll take horses up, move cows on horses. But that's going to be a big job of mine this summer is really just making sure all the cattle stuff is taken care of. And then the last week, I've been running a dozer for my husband, blading road. So I'm kind of just doing a little bit of everything. He has a lot going on with our personal businesses, and it feels really, really good to be in a supportive role as his wife and help out where is needed because I'm realizing that his job is really hard to do as a one man show. And I felt like I was missing out on that in my role at Nosler. Like my schedule is fairly flexible and I had a lot of time off, but I wasn't able to be at his like beck and call, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
when he really needed me. And so it feels good to be able to have that opportunity right now. And I'm so grateful for him because like this is all possible because of him and he's been very supportive in this. But really going forward, if I do entertain jobs, it's going to be something that I'm really genuinely excited about and I'm going to be picky with my role at Nosler and that coming to an end, I've been able to reflect, and I feel like people, feel like they have to have a job. Obviously, you have to have income, right? Like you have a livelihood to be able to live, but your job should serve you. Like it is a two-way street, and your job should serve you just like you are serving your employer. And so that's one thing I would say is like make sure your career really does serve you in whatever way that is meant for you. For me, I think I'll always be very passionate about whatever I do, and I'll still be exploring opportunities in the outdoor industry. But yeah, and that's another thing too, like growing up with parents that worked 9 to 5s, it's a little unconventional to have several of our own businesses. For me to right now, like not be working. I think my mom in particular is really worried about me, but I'm like, Mom, it's really okay. I am in a very good mental space. And yeah, I think that this, like, while it might be unconventional, both Clark and I are in a really good spot.
Yeah, and who's like you said, you're not saying that you're never working again. Like you're just saying this is where you need to be right now. And it sounds like you've had a really expansive journey on mental health and like, all your marriage and all these things and finding God. And I think there's something to be said, like you said, the hustle culture stuff that everyone thinks we need to be a part of
Hmm.
isn't true. It isn't true. There's no
No.
reason to be grinding 24/7. And I mean, we're only here for a little while. Like, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Actually do things that like you can fill your cup with instead of constantly draining your cup. But I'm sure
Yeah.
your mom, I can just imagine.
I know. She calls me all the time. She's like, "Have you applied for any jobs?" I'm like, Mom, I'm just like feeling this out right now. But yeah, like, I don't at all feel lost. I feel like there's a greater plan for me, a greater purpose for me, and I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like everything up until this point led me to this moment to be able to have this peace for a little while. My personality is very much go, go, go. Like I need to have a full time job. But there's also another side to that, which I've kind of been talking about. But yeah, I don't think biologically women are meant to carry that much stress. And the last couple weeks, I felt so relieved. I felt like I could really like lean into myself, my marriage. I don't feel like stressed to the max all the time. I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. writing a note in my phone about something I have to do at work the next day. And I kind of just feel like a new person. So when I do, if I do find a new career, it'll definitely come with healthy boundaries. But just the person I am, I'm always going to be passionate about my work. I'm always going to give it my whole heart. So I think just having open eyes to that and not letting my whole identity be in that job and setting healthy boundaries.
Yeah, I love that for you. I think that's something that you hope that you'll find in life and be like that's a realization we all hope we can can see, but it's great that you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good. I feel a little shame, a little judgment, a little like society looks down on me. But yeah, I'm really trying to work through that. I think that it's become the norm for women to hustle, and not that I don't think we should hustle. I think there's times in our lives when we should, but obviously like that's different for everyone, and it looks different for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And times in our lives, and then also like days in the week. Like,
Yes.
like it doesn't need to be a grind every day. Like, and my husband runs a social media, like a YouTube channel. And obviously, like with that comes Instagram, right? And then, like I told you previously, I've got the podcast, I work a full-time job, I'm a photographer. I'm also a friend. I'm a daughter. I'm all these things, and you can't do it all. So every night you
No.
go to bed and you're just exhausted, and it's like, wait a second, who are we hustling for here? Like,
Hmm.
what's the end game? And Kyle and I often talk like it's just a season of life, right? Like we're just trying to like we don't even know where we're trying to get to, but like you're just trying to do something cool and do something big and support people and things like that and do the things you love, but it's like how long do you do that for before
Yeah.
you break too? Like, there's just it's such a balancing act and that's life, but
Yeah. I think one thing too is Clark and I recently started doing intro to long range hunting and shooting courses,
Yeah.
which has kind of been a gateway for me back into the shooting and hunting space and teaching people. So we're really getting to share our passion and knowledge with people, which has been really neat. And we've had a really positive, I guess, feedback from that and from the courses that we've done. But that allows me to still like play that professional role, teaching people, making them more knowledgeable hunters and more efficient hunters, which is kind of what I did at Nosler, but it's for our own. It's, I'm not pouring my heart and soul into a company that has someone else's name on the building. I'm like
Yeah.
pouring my heart and soul into something that's for us. And ultimately, I want to be known as like a wife first, a daughter, a friend, like all of these other things that I do, not like, oh, marketing manager at Nosler.
Right. Right. It's funny you say that because I know that when I've looked at your Instagram in the past, you will share people's like posts that they've like posted and it's something about Nosler and they tag you. And they're like you are kind of like the Nosler girl, right? That's how people view you, but
Yeah.
that's not necessarily what you want. You want to be known as Maddie and the cool other cool things that you do, right? Like you said, the
Yeah.
wife, the daughter, all of those things.
Yeah. I think people perceive just because of social media perceived that job was all rainbows and butterflies. Like I was
Right.
always getting to go hunting, always going to the range days, always getting to do something new and fun. But I was riding a desk. Like I was sitting behind a desk every single day, and it was fun while it lasted. But I'm glad that chapter is over. It taught me so much personally, professionally, just about working with people. But also brought so much knowledge to me that I wouldn't otherwise have gained. And not to mention the network that I now
Yeah.
have, the incredible people that I met along the way, the friendships that will literally last forever. I think that sometimes people perceived it differently than what it really was.
hmm Of course, because they didn't have to live it.
Yeah.
Okay, you already kind of gave us a little gateway into my next question, but talk to us about that introduction to long range hunting. Like, tell us, so you and your husband run it? Is that what you had said? So give us all the
Yeah.
details, like how people can find it, how they can be a part of it, and what it all entails.
Yeah. So we've done a few courses already. We have a few more booked out, but we'll probably open some dates here probably July-ish. But really what it is, it's like everything you need to know about long range hunting. Obviously, there's a ton of experience and repetition that comes with that, but we bring people like seasoned hunters and shooters and new shooters to the course, and we teach them all about ballistics, ammo offerings. We teach them different positions to shoot from, what is going to be most stable. We teach them how to read wind, how to read mirage. And then, like just this last weekend, we held a course, and there's a couple ladies that joined, and they weren't new to shooting, but they've like hunted a few times, but really like weren't experienced shooters. And we had them shooting out to 900 yards consistently. And there's controversy over long range hunting. And what I'll say is shoot as far as you are comfortable. Like while we're helping them shoot at 900 yards and practice at 900 yards, are they realistically going to shoot an animal at 900 yards? Probably not. But you shoot and get good at 900-yard shots, and 500 yards becomes a chip shot for you.
Right.
And so they would reel it back into anywhere between 400 and 600 yards. And they're like, wow, I'm hitting the vitals every single time. I'm able to read the wind. And so just teaching them all the different things about their gun and ballistics and different positions. Like prone is always going to be the most stable, but maybe you can't get a prone shot on the animal. Maybe you need to go kneeling behind a tripod. So the different tools that they can use, and then just letting them shoot. Like we set them up with about 100 rounds, and they shoot through that in the day. And then by the end of the course, they have tools that they can take home and practice. But really, what I'll say about that too is a lot of hunters will grab a box of ammo off the shelf from the store, which is what I used to do. And on the back of the box, it'll tell them a muzzle velocity, their drop at different yardages. And they'll usually say in some small fine print, like, this was tested in a lab on a 24-inch barrel. If you don't have that same scenario, you don't have a 24-inch barrel, your muzzle velocity is going to be different. So you can't trust the data on an ammunition box and get accurate information for your setting. The air changes at elevation, the powder burns faster at hotter temperatures, hotter outside temperatures. So there's a lot of variations that go into it. And really, what we teach is getting your data. We use a Garmin to get muzzle velocity, and then being able to plug that or calculate that, plug it into binos or rangefinder, and get your information that way rather than sighting in at 200 yards and trying to guess your drop at distance. Like, there's so much information that is available to hunters and shooters that there's no reason that people shouldn't be educated. Like, you have a whole digital platform free at your fingertip, not to mention the number of different tools that have come out optics wise, rangefinder, binos, ballistics information, ballistics calculators that can just make you a much better and more efficient hunter and shooter, so that at distance you're not guessing, you're not wondering if you're going to hit the target. You know, every single time you're going to hit the target. And really what practicing long range has done for me is I'm a hunter up until the point that my crosshairs are on that animal, and then I'm able to control my adrenaline, take a deep breath and shoot as if that animal were a target. I think that it's our duty as hunters to be marksmen, and I don't think enough people focus on that. Everyone focuses on like finding the animals, but what happens when you find the animals? Do you have the equipment that is capable? Are you capable? And so really like teaching them how to go out into the woods and be successful once they're on the animal.
Mhm. You're gonna cringe at this, but I was turkey hunting this weekend and I used my dad's gun. And up until this weekend, it never hit me that I need to be more one with my gun. Like, it just felt, I had a shot at two different turkeys. I shot, they were somewhere between 40 and 50 yards away. And I think that they were over 50. My husband says they were 40. We don't have good binoculars, so we don't know. We have a rangefinder, but it was not with us, and it's not a good one either. But, you're guessing, and like you just said, like pretend like yeah, and you may not get a lot of time like you would with a target, right? But like pretend you're just shooting at a target. Take that breath, understand your gun. And that's just like in the situation, but like prior to being out there, like you said, learn your gun, understand your gun, your rifle, your shotgun, make sure that you understand those things and feel comfortable, because I'm going to be honest, I barely knew how to use my dad's scope because it's a red dot and like I couldn't figure out how to turn it on. And like just all these little things that would make you such a better hunter and be put into such a good position if you understood those things really well. So I think
Yeah.
it's amazing that you guys have this opportunity for people, and it's I'm sure it's going to go super well.
Yeah, it's really exciting, especially because we didn't know the response we were going to get. I'm someone that's like, I have to plan out everything to a T. And I don't think, had Clark not really just jumped in and launched the course, I don't think I ever would have thought we were ready. Not to mention, I was questioning, like, okay, yeah, sure, we're good hunters and shooters and we know what we're talking about, but can we articulate that? Can we teach that to people? Well, it turns out we can. So it was great. But yeah, I don't think, had Clark not really just jumped in and did it, we wouldn't be where we're at now. But yeah, it's really exciting. And don't feel bad about your turkey experience, because I don't ever practice with my shotgun. And I went turkey hunting a few weeks ago with some friends that came into town, and they called a turkey into 15 yards for me. 15 yards. And I missed him. I'm like, I guess my group was too tight at that range. Like, so we have it on video. It went right in front of his neck. But I was mortified because I shot my elk last year at 960 yards. And I'm like, I can shoot elk at long range, but I can't hit a turkey at 15 yards. But yeah, it's really just knowing your equipment. Had I gone out and patterned my shotgun the night before on a piece of cardboard, I probably would have been ready. Like, would have known exactly where to aim. But yeah, it's all about being prepared. And there's little things we can do to be more prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. That has to be a sick feeling. Like I said, somewhere between 40 and 50 yards. And I think I've had nightmares every night since. Like how, like I thought it was a good shot. Like, what is going on?
I
And
know.
now I've got like a gun in my cart because now I need my own shotgun. I need to know how to use all my things. Like,
Yeah,
I can't be using my dad's anymore. I don't trust him.
I know.
Um,
I was even like, did I look down the site? Like, did I line everything? I don't know. I don't know what I did. But yeah, I think we can all practice a little bit more.
yeah, for sure. So how can people like join, be a part of it? Like like what's the process look like?
Right now, we have one course open for June 7th, which is actually coming up soon. We only have two spots left for that one. The rest that we put out there are full, but we'll be adding more dates. Right now, it's just messaging me on Instagram or my husband. And my plan in the long run is to have a website and a sign up form and a calendar where people can like book their own class. But we're just not there yet. We're just
Yeah.
starting out. So we're going to see how it takes off. We have a really good system down and it's a great course. But yeah, we just need to fine tune the little things like the signing up, the payment, the all the things. But yeah, right now, anyone that's interested can message me on Instagram and I can give them all the details.
Sure, sure. Can you give us just a few more details, like how many people are you allowing into the class? For the,
So we're only doing courses of four, and
okay.
that allows me and Clark, between the two of us, we can really work like pretty much one on one or one on two with people. So only four per class. And that way, the value is for the students. We really want them to get that experience. And then it's also a safety thing, right? We want everyone to have not only a good time and find value in it, but also be safe. So we're not doing any more than four per class. And then it's a whole day. We feed you lunch. You come out. We meet usually at 7 in the morning. You're done by 4:30 or 5ish. So it's a full day of shooting and fundamentals, and you really get a ton of trigger time. We have targets. They're life-size animal targets from coyotes, deer, bighorn sheep, antelope, from 100 yards all the way out to like 970 yards with vitals that swing. So you can hear it, you can hear the metal, and you can see the vitals swing, and it's really rewarding.
Oh my gosh, fun. What have you seen for like age range? Like, are you getting like people from all different ages?
Yeah. So the first course we had a kid and his dad. He was probably mid 20s, and then his dad. We had a gal that was 30 and her dad. And then the last course we did, we had two husband and wives. So I mean, probably about middle age is what I would
Yeah.
say the average is. But yeah, just for this next one, when I opened up those two spots for the 7th, I had a guy sign up that's probably in his 60s. So I would say that we kind of tailor it to your where you're at currently and your experience. So if you've been a lifelong 100 shooter, you already know kind of the basics, but then we can take you that much further and we can dive into the little details. There are so many factors that play into long range performance and long range shooting that we can dive in even deeper. So if it's someone that's just starting out, brand new to hunting, then we'll go over basics, fundamentals, and we'll kind of start you there. But if you're someone that is like really experienced, then we can dive that much further. But really, it's about the trigger time. And we have four guns that are set up, low recoil guns. They're all 25 Creedmoors. So it allows people to shoot and work on their fundamentals without worrying about the bang. They're all suppressed, which is usually what happens or what causes people to like yank the trigger and take a bad shot. And they're also low recoiling. So you don't have to worry about getting beat up by the gun. You can shoot 100 rounds and have a great time and really work on your fundamentals without having to worry about some of those factors. And then, yeah, I would say we kind of tailor it to individuals,
Yeah.
personal experiences and where they're at.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually thought people were bringing their own guns. Are they, or are they using yours specifically?
So we started out with people bringing their own guns, and we've encouraged them to rent our guns. So you can rent our guns. We set you up with a rifle, a bipod, tripod, shooting bags, 100 rounds of ammo, the whole 9 yards, like literally everything you need to be successful. And we recommend that if you don't have a 6.5 Creedmoor or less, or something that you're comfortable shooting 100 rounds with, like some guys want to bring their 300 Win Mag or their 300 Norma. And I'm like, you're not going to want to shoot that 100 times. So people have been using our guns that we have set up, and then they'll bring their hunting guns and we'll get their velocity with the chronograph and we'll help them build out that data and then get on target at distance. So they're getting the fundamentals with our rifle that's set up for the course, but then we also help them through all of the performance with their own rifle so that they leave confident with their setup as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah. And then it's just easier too because we know what our ammo does. We know the data, we know our rifles, the reticles and their scope. So it's a little easier for us to work with the individuals when it's our own equipment that we know rather than trying to figure out someone else's rifle. Because not in all cases, but chances are if you're coming to an intro to long range hunting and shooting course, you might not have the best rifle setup. You might not have the best ammo. You might not even know what you're shooting. So we prefer and recommend that they use our stuff and then also bring theirs too so that we can help them get it set up.
I asked you earlier, like how you decide what to use, archery versus rifle or, whatnot. What is your favorite rifle that you own?
My favorite rifle that I own is a Seekins Havoc PH2 chambered in 28 Nosler. I love the Seekins rifles. So I've gotten to know the guys behind the brand really well, and they're second to none. They are hunters and shooters themselves, and so they take great pride in the products they put out, but they're also very economically priced. I think you can buy a Seekins rifle for about 2 grand, and which this day and age, I feel like people are spending like $5,000, $7,000 on custom rifles. You can get the same performance out of a Seekins hunting rifle. So I highly recommend those. That's what my rifle is. And it's cool too because Glenn Seekins, who owns the company, a few weeks ago, Clark and I were at an NRL hunter match in Idaho, and Glenn Seekins was there shooting his rifle. So one thing I really admire is the owner of the company at a match shooting his own rifle, and he placed really well. So like someone that believes in their product, and then also too in working with them for the last few years and getting to know them, he's very meticulous about their products. So if there's something he doesn't like or he gets feedback from someone, he is so hands-on with the business that he just goes in there and changes it. And so they're constantly making improvements, but really they have the best production rifle you can buy for the best money.
Noted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love someone who stands behind their product. Well, gosh, you gave us so much information. I absolutely loved every minute of it. I feel like I've learned the things, like my takeaway mainly is to get to know your gun better, like truly understand it. And super cool that you can look at the back of the box and realize, oh yeah, this isn't going to match my rifle if I don't have this exact setup that it says
Yes.
that they tested it on, right? So
Yeah.
that is super cool. Um, Anything else you want to share about like your hunting experiences, your time with Nosler, or like understanding rifles? How should a woman start out, like if this is something that they're interested in, like understanding better? Where would you say start out? Because you've said a lot of different verbiage that people might not totally understand. Where's the easiest place to start?
Yeah, I would say if you're just wanting to start out, I would, for one, say find a mentor or find a group that or community that can help you. It's something that's probably intimidating for women, especially to get involved in if they didn't grow up doing it. And there's a lot of women that are willing to help other women get involved in it. But yeah, I would, for one, say find a mentor, someone that knows how to handle firearms safely. There's also a lot of time like local range days you can go to at your local shooting range, or even if it's like taking a handgun course. But find someone that can introduce you to shooting safely, show you the fundamentals. And then I would say YouTube is a great place. YouTube has so much information, but two, I would say like just go hunting. Like once you're comfortable with your rifle, there's nothing that allows you to gain more knowledge than literally just going and doing it. Like go out in the woods, hunt. If you're comfortable at 100 yards, like get within 100 yards of an animal. But yeah, I would say find a mentor, learn how to use a firearm safely, and then really just like dive in and go do it, because you could take years and years of courses and trainings before you know everything, right? Like if you're waiting for the perfect moment to actually just get out there and do it, it's never going to happen. So know how to do it safely and then really just go do it. And it's best if you can find someone to do it with, whether that be a husband, a father, a brother, like someone that knows what they're doing so they can teach you safely, but ultimately just go do it.
Yeah, love the shout out for a mentor because mentors are just the way to do things. You gain a friendship or you grow a friendship, you're able to commiserate and discuss all the things. And also like to your point, Kyle and I do a lot of musky fishing. I've talked about this on the podcast. It's not always easy to like allow your significant other to be that mentor
Mm-hmm.
because just because there's differences, right? Like, and he's gonna push you a little harder than maybe a mentor would, and probably give you a little bit less of an explanation than a mentor would. And he's just gonna
Yes.
expect you to like, he married you because you're amazing, and so he's gonna think that you're just amazing. You can figure it out, but like, you might
Mm-hmm.
need a little extra. So it's good to have that mentor be someone else, but also, like I said, like grow that, or you said, like grow that community by having a mentor. That mentor will lead you to other people who love that same thing, and
Yes.
you have this big group of women and men to corral around.
Yeah. And if anyone listening has questions or needs me to point them in the direction, like feel free to message me. I'm an open book and I'm always happy to help you with any questions you have, whether it's like rifle setup, cartridges, whatever it might be. I can dive into whatever your individual specific question is, but always happy to help.
Yeah. Any other resources besides a mentor, besides you? You mentioned the one, I think it's an app that you talked about with tags in the beginning of the pod. Anything
Yeah.
else you would suggest for people like trying to get into it for resource wise?
Yeah, it's always hard state to state. I would say that your local sheriff's office is a really good resource, or your local fish and wildlife department. Both of those are really great. A lot of time, there's handguns or firearm courses through your local sheriff's office or police department. And then, more specific to hunting, you could reach out to your fish and wildlife department, and they often have a lot of resources for like hunter safety and getting you involved in actually hunting.
Yeah. Love that. Well, fun. Okay, I have a few fun questions just to get to know you as a
Yeah.
human a little bit, Maddie.
Okay.
Um, what is your favorite thing to do on a Saturday morning?
Oh, I love to wake up early. I'm an early riser, but I like really quiet mornings. But I love hanging out with my dogs, love getting a walk in or a workout and coffee.
Quiet mornings are the best mornings. And when you have
Yes.
no plans on the weekends, it makes it even better.
Yes.
What is the most adventurous thing that you've ever done?
Oh, most adventurous. I would say last year, well, I guess it would have been 2 years ago now. Clark and I put in for mountain goat tags in Alaska on Kodiak, and we were told by the outfitter that we were hunting with that it usually takes a few years to about like 7 years to draw. Well, we ended up drawing together the first year that we put in. We were not financially prepared. These like are very expensive. So last September, we drained our savings and we both went and shot mountain goats on Kodiak Island. And let me tell you, like, it was insane. We were walking on razor sharp ridges where this is one thing, like hunting with your spouse is incredible, but also the anxiety that comes with watching your spouse basically rock climb or mountaineer without gear, where if they make one misstep, they're falling to their death. Yeah, crazy. Very scary, but it was so cool. Like I would go back in a heartbeat. It's one of those moments where you're like, why do we do this to ourselves? But then after the trip, you're like, okay, I'm ready to go back. I
Mhm.
think it's that adrenaline rush that it gives you. And then also just like that confidence of I did that. But that was probably the most adventurous thing that we've done. And it was really cool because we both shot really nice billies out of the same group and we doubled on them. So like I shot, killed mine, and then the rest of them got up and Clark shot his. And so we got pictures with both of them together. And yeah, it was really neat.
Oh my gosh, that's a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Oh, and did you feel prepared like physically for that? Because I've heard about those trips and it can be grueling.
So I did feel physically prepared. So they're at sea level.
Okay.
And here we live at like 4,000 feet elevation. So I felt prepared as in like my legs weren't dying, my lungs weren't dying. As far as I'm gonna give Clark out on this one. But as far as like watching your spouse walk on such treacherous ground, that I was not prepared for. Clark was behind me, so it was like our two guides went and then me, and there was several parts of it that was very, very sketchy. Like when they kill goats up there, they said that they're having to like tie off from the top and rappel down. We didn't end up killing ours up there, but we did get within 12 yards of goats up there, which was pretty cool. There just wasn't any big billies.
Yeah.
But I would say I was not prepared for that. But it does like, obviously Clark cares about me. So I'm like kind of like happy that he had such bad anxiety watching me go on this stuff. So I'm like, wow, I know he really loves me. But yeah, he was like not in a good place watching me cross some of those rock faces, and same me with him. Like you really just have to like hone into your faith and be like, I know everything's going to be okay. Because in that moment, it did not feel like it was going to be okay.
Yeah. Wow. That is stressful.
Yeah, very, very stressful. I was relieved when we were off of it. But no, I didn't feel like I was physically ill prepared. But I also am someone that is like very active and I work out
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So yeah, I felt good.
Yeah. I didn't think that you would feel ill prepared. I was going to ask you what you did to prepare for it, but it seems like if it was at sea level, you probably didn't need to do a whole lot.
No, I think if the elevation was something crazy, like if we were at 10,000 feet or whatever, that's something to definitely train for. But I usually will just like, I lift year round. And then usually before hunts, I'll like train on the Stairmaster or whatnot. But yeah, it's mostly the weight of the pack that I think gets people. And
Mhm.
I will say too that you can do everything you want in the gym, on the treadmill, whatnot, but nothing compares to actually getting out and training like on a hike with a weighted pack or out in the wilderness.
Yeah, for sure. Earlier, you talked to us about, therapy and church and kind of, going within to find some healing. What is a habit or ritual that you found through that journey that's really grounded you?
Yeah, I think that really what I found, and more so just like working through things in my marriage, I think people always do the best that they can and the best that they know how with what they have, right? And so I think one thing that I've practiced a lot is grace, but then also talking through like whether I say something or Clark lashes out and says something, and I'm like, hmm, where did that come from? Like finding out, okay, here's why that came out the way it did. And it was actually just the other day. I can't even remember what we got into a little argument about, but it was like a light bulb moment for me where I felt like I realized that I was holding some resentment.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh, that's where that came from. So I think looking inward and then also being able to be like, okay, this is where this stems from. This is why I'm acting this way. Like growing up, for me, one example is I'm very much a perfectionist these days. I'm like, that's something that I'm trying to not do as bad. But growing up, I was always rewarded for good grades. I was always like praised for making it in the paper for sports. And I noticed that through my adult life, I would like be praised at work or get a raise or get a promotion. And I was instantly like going to my parents and be like, oh, got a raise, like wanting them to be proud of me for this achievement. And that was something that I really had to back off of and be like, okay, I like childhood Maddie is coming out right now. And this is why I'm feeling this way. And I don't think our parents too do the best that they can, right? And I'll say one thing with parents is like picturing them as a little kid and like that they always did the best that they could and they knew how. So I would say ultimately, like literally just giving yourself grace, giving your parents grace, giving your spouse grace, but then also doing a deep dive into yourself and be like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Where is this coming from? And then just kind of addressing it and being like, okay, like little Maddie is coming out, and what did she need in that moment?
oh, Maddie, I feel this like in my soul. Oh my gosh. Maybe I need therapy and I say that all the time. I probably do. Um, wow. I can relate to that so deeply into my bones. Like you said, everything you just said. bringing home good grades, always doing well in sports. When I grew up, like we're going back to even just this weekend of how devastated I've been the last like honestly the last 2 weeks because it was a 4 week season for me and I it's just been really tough the turkey season and I probably sound so dramatic, but I think like you just said, what did child Victoria like deal with? Always took one shot and killed the animal. Always was just in the right headspace back then. Like, you didn't have all those other worries. So wow, like I really can resonate with that. And that's crazy to think of it that way. And that's the beauty of therapy too. And I'm sure you didn't learn all of this in therapy because you live you learn things through life too, but you can talk it out instead of like, I don't know how it was with your husband, but like, and this is no diss on my husband at all, but like those conversations can't always be had with your
No.
significant other. Like you need to have someone else to be able to like speak to that like
Hmm.
has emotion removed or doesn't think you're talking about them necessarily. Like, you know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes, 100%. And I think too, a lot of the things that, like earlier when I said that I was unhappy in my marriage, I think I was projecting a lot. And I think that a lot of that unhappiness didn't come from anything my husband was doing. It was literally me. I was unhappy with myself.
Yeah.
And when I addressed those things, and it's continuous, right? Like it's constant work. But as I've like kept working through those things, I found that whereas I used to try to change him, like I wanted him to be exactly like I wanted, I was always nagging. I was always like, why didn't you do this? Why are you not like this? Like once I found peace with myself, I no longer nag. I no longer have unrealistic expectations. Like, I really love him for him because that's who I married. And I think that too, like, you can't always expect people to change, right? Like, that's one thing that finding healing within myself has really allowed me to like love him for him and realize that he doesn't have to change for us to have a happy, healthy marriage, that I can change and I can be an example for change. And one thing too, I will say is that as I started working on myself and like, he doesn't go to therapy, he doesn't go to church, like these are things I did for myself.
Mhm.
But me practicing those things has made him a lot more open to changing and healing himself without me ever saying like you need Jesus, you need help. Like literally, like he has started to just catch on to me being softer, calmer, more accepting, more loving. And those are things that radiate, right? Like the people that spend the most time around you can really feel those things. So that's what I'll say too. Like when you really dig deep and like work on yourself, it helps everyone around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can even attest to that too. Like, and I feel that in my marriage with Kyle. Like, if, and to be honest, I almost think I don't want to diss us as women, but guys are pretty chill. Like, they're go with the flow. So they're feeding off of your energy. You're
Mm-hmm.
nagging, and then they are probably, and I'm not giving them a pass, they're a pain as well. But, like, I can feel that. Like, I'm also have been a nagger or like if I'm holding something in from work or from, the stress of whatever in life and he's the one I take it out on, like that's not fair. Like
Mm-hmm.
and then he projects something onto me and then it's like this back and forth constant and it's like what the heck? Take a step back. And even I think after we've been together for almost 11 years, like you finally figure out, and I'd say within the last year, you figure out how to have those conversations and like remind like I've been able and it's a big thing and it's a huge thing to realize too like us as women realize that like we're the problem sometimes,
Yeah.
right? We don't want to be
Yeah.
told that, like we don't want to hear that, but like the second you realize like that was on me, I
Mm-hmm.
caused that, like you can change a lot of things. I love that you were able to also find that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's easy to apologize too. Like,
Mhm.
even if you're maybe not the one that started it or needs to apologize, like that first step in acknowledging where you went wrong, that's huge, right? Especially for men who can be stubborn and like, I'm stubborn,
Mhm.
but really just not holding grudges, not giving cold shoulder. One thing I've always said, and that we really try to live by, which is hard sometimes, is like, he's not my enemy. It's us working together towards the same end goal. Like, he is not my enemy. So, whatever we have to do in that moment to realize, like, why are we fighting each other? We're both after the same thing. So, let's work together. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, really just honing in like you are not my enemy. Like we don't need to be fighting about this.
Right, right. It's just so easy sometimes when he's the only
It
one in the
is.
house, right?
I know. It is very easy.
Yeah. No, I love all of that. That's such great information. Okay, two more questions.
Okay.
One is, what is your favorite thing to bake?
Ooh. I love to bake cinnamon rolls. I really love to bake sweets, but I also like to cook. I like to cook wild game. But yeah, like cinnamon rolls, cakes, cookies. Yeah.
Yeah, big sweet tooth girl.
Yeah. Except
Same.
for I can't have gluten anymore, so I end up just baking for my husband, but that works too.
That does work.
Yeah.
And then the second question or last question is on Instagram, you posted something about a coffee cup and how it made you feel more feminine. And I want you to tell all of us like what you meant by that and some more details.
Yeah, so like I said, just within like the last year and specifically the last 6 months, I started to feel a more pull into being like a softer, more feminine, less rush type of person. And one thing that I changed was like, so when I was working at Nosler, I commuted an hour to and from work.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was on the road 2 hours a day and it was crazy. But I would always like found myself getting up last minute, rushed out the door, cup of coffee in a to-go cup, like just like full anxiety before I even left the house. And one thing I did that was able to just shift that a little bit and bring a little peace to my life was instead of using it to like a to go Yeti coffee cup, I put it in a coffee mug and it gave me the feeling like a calm feeling of like I was just sitting at my dining room table drinking coffee on a Saturday morning. I just felt less rushed. It felt like less like my life was always packed up on the go. And it honestly just brought a little bit of peace and femininity that I felt like I was missing.
Hmm. I love that. I also get in the car with coffee mugs. I don't care if I spill. I don't want to use a closed Yeti. I don't know what it is. It
Yeah,
is something. There's something about it that
something.
you want to hold on to that. I don't know
It
what it
also
is.
tastes different. Like I feel like it tastes different in a mug than it does in like a Yeti to go cup. But yeah, there was people that I got kind of mixed emotions when I posted that. Like some people were like, "Okay, I tried it and I spilled my coffee," and but then a couple people messaged and like, "I this really helped me just bring a slower pace to my morning and a little bit more peace." And that's exactly what it did for me. Like I would turn on some light music on my way to work. I would drive with one hand, like sip my coffee with the other, and I just felt like a whole new person.
Yeah. Ugh, I love that. I love that. Everyone should try it. And to those who spilled, maybe just fill it half full next time.
Yeah, yeah. Don't fill it to the top.
Oh, funny. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for your time. This was so valuable in so many different ways, life, guns, hunting, all the things. Like, such a wonderful podcast episode. I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we will catch you next time. At Hartung Taxidermy, we specialize in preserving memories of the hunt or the catch. Tyler can create lifelike lasting memories that capture the essence of your experiences. What they offer? Custom taxidermy, specializing in turkeys to big game like bear, mountain lions, bobcats, and deer. We craft stunning pieces that showcase the unique characteristics of each animal. Why choose Hartung Taxidermy? Tyler is a skilled and passionate craftsman with years of experience. He creates detail oriented, lifelike creations that stand the test of time. Also, affordable pricing and a commitment to the customer satisfaction. Bring your memories to life with Hartung Taxidermy. Contact them today to schedule a consultation. Call 715-416-4008 or visit him at Hartung Taxidermy on Facebook or Instagram.